Yeah. Assalamu alaikum everyone. I am Saman Farooq, your host for today, and I welcome you all to the Salesflo new feature release launch webinar for March 2022. And with me will be my team, Asra, Ali, and Zoba, who will be also participating with me and presenting along the features that we've recently launched. Okay, so just before I start and move ahead, I'd just like to brief you all about the logistics of this event. That is, you guys are required to keep your mics at mute at all times. And for any questions that you guys have regarding any features that we've talked about, you can drop your questions in the chat window and we'll be taking questions at the end of the session. Okay. So before we proceed, there are some new people who have recently joined us. Um, and I'd just like to brief you what the event is. So the event basically talks about the new features that we have launched, and we'll be talking about the features that we've launched over here in March. And just to give you a brief recap of what we talked about in our last webinar was that we announced some exciting new features that we worked on, and we also showed our sprint plans regarding the 3-month innovation plan that we had decided. And there were 3 categories where we discussed about a web feature, mobile application feature, and then followed by system improvement. So we'll be following the same pattern in this webinar as well, and we'll be talking about some new features that we've launched. Okay. So moving forward, I'll be talking about the innovation plan that is for 5th March. Whatever we've launched, we'll be briefing you about that, and then followed by we'll be showing you at the end the innovation plan for the next 3 months, right? So yes, moving on to the agenda of this event is that we'll be talking about web app features. And first of all, we'll be covering the updates we've made in credit limit, then payment policy, and then we will be telling you about the fiscal year calendar that we worked on, then mobile app demos. That is, we'll be talking about one of the most exciting features that we've launched. And then we'll be talking about some minor updates that we've done in the mobile application, and then followed by the system improvement part, right? Okay. So yeah, so let's move on to the first part of our agenda, that is the web app feature demos. So the first feature that we've worked on is that if you guys know that we've recently launched our credit limits module, where you could define certain credit limits. For example, if a store has any credit limit criteria, for example, you set it on amount that a store is not supposed to do with sales on credit exceeding more than rupees 10,000. So that was a credit limit feature that we launched previously. And based on our customer suggestions, our customers' feedback, we further improved upon it, and we've built certain more criterias on the credit module, which we'll be talking about. We've also applied that there can be multiple credit limit policies that you can be defining on a store. For example, if you want to set credit limit on the number of days, or the number of bills, or the amount collectively on a store. So all those parameters can also be configured. So we've built a robust credit limit module, and we further improved what we had delivered in the previous updates. Right. So Asra from my team will be giving a demo on it, and we'll be talking about further on how to set credit limits, what changes we've made, and yeah, so I'll be handing over the session to Asra now. Asra, I can't hear you.
Am I audible now?
Yeah, now you're audible.
Okay. So in in system settings, we go on credit limit settings, and over here we can see this new option that says allow multiple credit limits on the same store. So as someone said before, you could only allow single credit limit on a single store, but now we're allowing multiple different types of credit limits on a store. So as you can see, this is saved, it's enabled. So when we go to the credit module and we add a credit limit, so let's go with as distributor. We can, so a new feature that we've added is that you can now filter stores on. So if you want to get to, pick your specific store or whatever you want, you can do it through down hierarchy. You can filter, if you choose down hierarchy, you can choose town, locality, sub-locality, and then eventually stores. Narrow down, what store you want. You can also do channel hierarchy, or you can just upload the store codes in bulk using a CSV, and it will accept. So let's go with defense, phase 4, Kevin and Jami, and then let's go with store 1 and Astra store 1. Okay? So limit type is notified. This is the same as what was there before. Notify means that if a credit limit is exceeded and the notify type has been selected, that means it won't stop invoicing. Stock allocation will be allowed, but एक warning आ जाएगी every time the user tries to allocate stock. If we select block, तो block पे invoicing रुक जाएगी. So we'll show examples of both, but let's go with notify for now. And then limit based on. So up when we click on the drop down, we can see that ये multi-select आ रहा है. Before you could either pick amount or number of days of number or number of bills. So you can check all. Also, I'll briefly what each of these mean. So amount means that let's say you set an amount of 1,000 rupees. This means that with the store, if credit exceeds the defined amount, तो उस पे based on invoicing या तो notify होगी या block होगी. Number of days means कि आपने बोल दिया कि इस store के साथ I want to set a credit limit of 10 days. So that means that 10 days के बाद if 10 days के बाद credit clear नहीं हुई है, if after 10 days the credit hasn't been cleared, it will still be your invoicing will either be notified or blocked. And number of bills means that after in X, the defined number of bills have been made on credit and are unpaid, invoicing will either be notified or blocked. Okay? And then you also have a per bill limit option, which means that if you check this, you can, this is again the same as it was before. It just means that you can define the max amount value you want an invoice to have. So when we click apply filter, we can see 2 stores, and then we can see amount, day, and bill. So you can either individually type in what you want, like the amount, or what we, if you have, let's say you're setting the credit limit for 50 stores at a time and you want to apply the same amount. So we have this apply to all box on top. So if you type, whatever you type here will automatically show up and for all of the stores, but you can also still go in and like individually change the credit limit for the stores below as well. So let's go with 10 days and let's go with 2 bills. Okay. So this is, again, I'm going to remind you, this is the notify option. So we click save. So what we've set is that when you're creating a credit score, and at the time of creation, there's still pending credit, pending as the outstanding balance here that hasn't been paid back. This notifies you of that, but it will let you proceed with the credit limit creation. So then we'll make another one for block, just so we see how it works. So we go on the same distributor, same down hierarchy. This time, let's go with, so last time we selected Astra Store 1 and Tuz store 10. So this time let's go with Tuz store 1. And just to see what happens, let's also try selecting Astra store 1 again. So ideally, you should only be able to apply one credit limit. Like only a single amount can be defined as a credit limit for a store. Only a single number of days can be defined as a credit limit for a store, and only a single number of bills can be defined. So let's see if we're stopped. So this time we're selecting block. So as you can see, it says that for Astra store 1, the limit has already been defined. But it doesn't matter. We can set the thing for set the limits for the store 1. So let's go with the same limits, but it doesn't make a difference. You can go anything. So we click save. Same warning. This won't always happen, only if you have pending credit. Now let's place a secondary order. So we can see, how the credit limit works. So we'll create a secondary order for each of the 3 stores for which we defined a credit limit. First one was Astra. Let's make the delivery date the 13th. So I can add an SKU. So with 5 units. I'll add a new secondary order. Same distributor. This time let's do the Tuz store. So Tuz store 1. So we've done it for the 2 stores, and now let's add it for the 3rd store. So we did Tuz store 10. So now we have secondary orders for each of the 3 stores. So now we can see. So at the time of stock allocation, we select the distributor. So we can see 3 orders that we placed for Astra store 1, Tuz store 1, and Tuz store 10. So when we click on execute stock allocation, we can see, okay, for each of these, so for Astra store 1 and for Tuz store 1, we have, for Astra store 1 and for Tuz store 10, we had made the credit limit on notify. So we can see that it says limit exceeded, but it says that allow stock allocation if exceeded. This means it won't stop you, but for Tuz store 1, we had put the block credit limit. So that means it's going to stop stock allocation if exceeded. So let's try and execute invoices and generate the load form. So we can see, so it should drop. It shouldn't let it should let 2 of the orders go through. It should stop block. We can see the following orders are dropped due to credit limit exceeded. So this was the one that on which we put the block condition, but the other 2 were successfully generated. And then we can go back to settings. If at any point you want to turn off credit limit, you can just go back to credit limit, multi-select credit limit. You can turn this off. So if you're trying to turn this off, it will tell you that these stores have multiple types of credit limit policies applied on them. So just turn those off or make them inactive before trying to turn the setting off. That's it, Saman. Over to you.
Thank you, Asra. Okay. Let me reshare my screen. Yeah. So moving on to the next feature that we'll be talking about is that we also recently launched our payment recovery module. That was you could predefine that which store is able to perform transaction in which mode, right? For example, if a store is only to be allowed to pay cash, then you can mark cash on that particular store. And or if you want to mark that a particular store is only allowed to do payments in check, then you can also mark check, right, respectively on that store. So we've further updated that module, enhanced it a bit further, that you can also you can also mark if a certain store is to be allowed to pay in credit. And you can also set a combination of cash, credit, or check based on different settings that you've applied in the system. So Astra will be giving you a demo about it, and she'll be explaining you how you can work around with these policies, and how can you define different payment modes, and then how the system will behave on the payment collection screen. Okay, so over to you, Asra, and let's move to the demo part now.
And then, yeah. Okay, so in the same system settings where we allowed multi-select for credit limit, there's another option called individual recovery mode options on distributor level. So what this means is that, okay, for each store that a distributor is doing business with, you can select that. So for store A, you only want store A's payment to be done in a load form settlement to be done in cash. For store B, you can select payment recovery to only be done in credit. And for store C, you can select payment recovery to only be done through check. So if this is ticked, so let's say for all of the distributors here, only Kumel distributor is ticked. So for Kumel distributor, and I'll show you what this means, but for Kumel distributor, he can only set one type of policy on a store. So let's go to the payment recovery now. So it's in the same place as credit limit. There's a separate tab called payment collection policies. We add payment collection policy. So like we said, Kumel distributor. So we select any store. This can be one or many. So recovery mode. So we can see there's cash, check, and credit. So this isn't multi-select. This is not. So let's say if we select cash, if there's a little information icon, and when you hover over it, it tells you exactly what this means. So only cash option will be set on load form settlement. User will only be allowed to receive cash on load form settlement. Let's say if we did credit, only credit will be allowed on load form settlement. Users will not be allowed to select cash and check options at the time of load form settlement. So this is like the full amount will only be received in the selected mode. Okay. Then what we can do is that we can and this setting was only enabled for Kumel distributors. So let's go with TUS distributor who doesn't have this setting enabled, and let's see what. Let's go with TUS distributor because they don't have the setting enabled. So let's see what they can see when setting a payment collection policy. We pick, let's go with Astra Store for this. Select recovery mode. So they have a lot more options. Okay, so they have the same as before, cash, check, and credit, but now there's cash and check, cash or check, cash and check, credit or check, and so on. So the difference between and or. So let's go with, let's say for Astra Store, I'll do, let's say for Astra Store, I do only credit. This means that the full amount will only be received on credit. Okay, so I'll call this test policy 1. Let's make a new payment collection policy. This time, for TUS Store 1, let's select the recovery mode as cash and check and credit. So I'll explain the difference between cash and check and credit. Cash and check and credit, means that users will be allowed to receive the amount in any combination of the three modes. So the full amount can be divided between the three modes. So it can be cash and check and credit, partial in cash, partial in check, partial in credit. It can be fully received in any one mode. So it can be like if you have a 5,000 rupee invoice, it can be completely all 5,000 in cash, all 5,000 in check, or all 5,000 in credit. Or it can even be split in two modes. It can be to 2,500 cash, 2,500 credit, and so on. So let's call this test policy 2. And let's make another one. On test store 10. So in this one, let's go with cash or check or credit. So what this means is that users will be allowed to receive the full amount in either cash, in either credit, or in either check. Let's say it was 5,000 rupees. So you can either select it in cash or check, or 5,000 rupees on credit. So then let's call this test policy 3. Now we'll do the same thing. We'll place secondary orders for all 3 stores again, just so we can see them in action. At 5 units. Add new secondary order. This time we'll place it for Thus store 1. And finally, we'll place one for Thus store 10. So we can see all the different types of policies that we put in action. So I just want to check the delivery date for the second order. I put, oh, it's 10th March. I'll just edit it to make it 15th March. So it's all on the same day. Now we can go on stock allocation. We select all order purpose and we put 15th of March. So we can see 3 orders placed for us, one for Astra store 1, one for Thus store 1, and one for Thus store 10. We click on execute stock allocation. We can see the same credit limits applied. When we try and invoices and generate load forms, so this was, I'll try it on a store that doesn't have a block notification because, yeah, let's go on load form settlement and go on settle load form. And let's go with this. So there's one for Astra store 1. Astra store 1, we'd only selected credit. So we can see payment policy cash, it's a no. Payment policy credit, yes. Payment policy check, no. So only credit. When we go on enter details, we can't. The cash button, the cash checkbox, and the check checkbox are disabled. So it's only by default it's credit. We click on save details and we settle cash. And then can see Store 1 had cash, or Store 1 had cash and credit and check. So we can see that when we go on enter details for Store 1, we have the cash option enabled. We also have the check option enabled. That means if we enable this is editable. So let's say the total amount was 20,050 for Store 1. Let's say I want to collect 20,000 from cash. I can also add 25 rupees from check. So that means that out of 20,000, 25 rupees are going to, by default, be credit. When I click save payment details for that store, so we can see that we were allowed to pick a combination of cash, credit, and check. So we can settle cash, and that was done. So that's it from my end, Saman.
Thank you, Asra, for a very detailed demo. We'll be moving further on to the next feature. Yeah. So the next feature that we're going to talk about is the introduction of fiscal year calendar definition. So a lot of our customers, used to request that our fiscal year starts from June to July, and then a few of us had requested that it starts from January to December, and then they had to see the report analytics accordingly, and it was easy filtration for them basically. So now we've introduced the concept of fiscal year calendar, where you can simply define when your fiscal year starts, and then based on that you'll be able to see the reports accordingly based on the fiscal year that you've selected. So Zoha will be giving a demo for this, and I'll hand over the session to Zoha now.
All right, thank you, Saman. I will be sharing my screen now. Right. So this is the Salesflo instance that I'll be using for the demo. So like Saman said, there are a lot of clients that have asked for this feature. What a feature does is that we already have a calendar in the system, which is a regular calendar that starts in Jan, ends in December. Now you will have the feasibility to create your own fiscal calendar that will obviously have the restriction of it being of 12 months, but you will be able to select the start month for that particular year. I'll be essentially giving you the demo for where we can exactly set that. So we go on to system settings. This obviously would be client-wise. So every client, every customer would be able to define their own calendar year, whether they want to stick with the regular calendar year or if they want to move on to the fiscal year feature. What you do is that you select the fiscal year option, and then you select the start month for that particular feature. What it does is that it adds 12 months to that particular month. So let's say if I select the start month to be March, the year, this particular fiscal year will end in February. So it'll be 12 months a year. And moving forward, all of your fiscal years will be according to this particular selection that you have selected. That is, if you say this would be a one-time setting. So if you say that my start month for my moving forward, all of my fiscal years would be March, then all of the coming years, the start month for your fiscal year is going to be March. This is done because we need to see that we're not missing out on any year. Let's say if I say this year, my fiscal year starts in July and it ends in June, but next year I'm going to start in August. So July, essentially the sales that are being recorded in the month of July of the actual year will be missed out. So this is a very important condition that we have implemented, that this will be a very thought through process at an organization level. So when you are to switch from your no calendar to your fiscal year option, you will not be able to change it again and again. You will have to decide as to moving forward, what is the start month that you've decided for the organization to be. And then for all moving years, all coming years, you'll have that particular start month as the same start month. Now, as someone said that this fiscal year will help you view your reports accordingly. So let's say some customers have their reports on the basis of the Jan to December calendar. You will now be able to see your reports in accordance to the calendar that you've set in the system. Similarly, the targets will be uploaded for the month, and then you'll be able to have the visibility of the achievement of those targets accordingly in accordance to the fiscal year that you've set. Similarly, claims, all of the modules that are currently based on the actual calendar will be based on the fiscal year, and the impact will only be visible in the reporting module, obviously, because the month. So if it's March for a fiscal year 2022, it's also a March for a regular year. So it won't have any impact on the overall system. However, for the reporting end, you will be able to view the reports accordingly in accordance to the fiscal year that you've set. So this is the overall outlook as to how you can set the fiscal year and what exactly do you need to define, and you won't be able to define it again and again. This is about it for the fiscal year feature.
Thank you, Zoha. So let me continue sharing my screen. Yes. So we've covered the first part of our agenda. That is, we will be talking about the web app features. And now that we're done, we'll be moving on to the second part of our agenda. That is talking about what we've launched recently for our mobile application users. Now, there's one feature that we would talk to you about in great detail, and which we're very excited as well to launch, is the launch of our leaderboard and order booker gamification feature, which Ali will be talking about in a greater detail as well. And then followed by, we have also worked on some minor improvements in our mobile application as well. So just to slightly talk about the leaderboard and order booker gamification, is that we had been talking about it for quite some time now, that other order bookers will also be able to see how their respective order bookers at the same distribution are performing, how they are achieving their targets, just to empower other order bookers to perform well. So this leaderboard will it will tell the order bookers how exactly they're performing, what their scores are, how much are they, what their rank is. So Ali will be giving you the demo for this feature, and let's see what he has to display. Yeah, so I'll stop my screen share.
Okay, thank you, Saman. So yes, as Saman mentioned, that we are launching one of the biggest features we've done on our application for quite a while, and that is our leaderboard. So the idea behind it was to gamify the idea of order booking, right? So it can get very boring very fast. So the leaderboard is being brought in to gamify that, to bring some friendly competition to the idea of order booking, right? So for anyone who has had their leaderboard enabled, can go down into system settings, scroll down and select leaderboard. Once they've selected their leaderboard, they can press the checkbox to enable the leaderboard in the application. And then for all their value-based targets, they can choose which value target is picked up from the system. So this is going to be a one-time setting, right? And then they can hit save. Once they do that, their leaderboard module will be unlocked. Right. So over here we can, so we can then go to our leaderboard, and over here we can add a new leaderboard. So first off, we have the idea of making the leaderboard national, which means for all distributors across Pakistan, or you can select distributors and then select specific distributors out of the ones you have. Right? And the idea was that order bookers are basically their performance is gauged by their targets. And so their targets are being used to assign them points. Right. So different KPIs are being managed by different customers right now. And on the basis of the achievement of those targets, we will be assigning points. Right. So we are going to be giving a certain weightage to different KPIs. And based on those, against the target achievement, you will have your score. So for example, the value target set is 10,000. The order booker so far has achieved 5,000. So that's a 50% target achievement. So 20%, if the weightage of a KPI is set to 20%, 20% of that would be 10 points. Right? So we can come down and select all of the KPIs that are currently being fed into the system. We choose our month, which is March, and then we can enter our KPIs right over here. But we also have to make sure that this total adds up to 100% because it's out of percentage. And then you can hover over the I icon to see what each KPI actually means and how it is defined in our system. Right? Then you can just click here and add your leaderboard. Not doing that at the moment as I've already created one. So we can move on to the leaderboard report now, right? So we can select our distributor and then we can select our month and click generate. This is going to give us a report for all the order bookers and their standing according to their achievement and according to KPIs, right? So these targets are actually already in the system. So if I can show you under the distributor tab, we have our order booker value volume targets. So the same targets that are being set over here will be fed into the leaderboard. Right. So let's do a quick example of the points achievement. So let's take outlet productivity. So the target was 20 and achievement was 8. So let's go like 8 divided by 20. Sorry. 8 divided by 20 is 0.4 multiplied by 100 gives us 40% achievement, right? And then we can multiply this by the weightage over here. So as we define weightages for each KPI, we are going to be multiplying by 10% because that's the weightage of outlet productivity. So 10%, that is going to give us 4 points. So you have 4 points over here, right? So this is going to be the same for all of our KPIs. And then in the end, we will have a total point for each order booker. Okay. Then we can move on to view distribution leaderboard. Right. So if you want to view what the leaderboard looks like, you can go choose a distribution, and then you can choose your order booker and then see what it looks like for them on the app. Right. So this is divided on yesterday, week, and month. So you can see that you're at the first position, first, second, third, and gold cups for the first and the silver cup for the second. Right? I'll explain what these arrows mean in just a bit. Right? So let's move on to the app view. So on the app, once the leaderboard is enabled, the order bookers will sync down and they will be able to see a cup right next to their dashboard name. So they can click on the cup and their leaderboard will open up. So whichever order booker is opening it, their name will be highlighted in green, as you can see for the first one. So their total points for the month are 152. You can see this on week and you can see this on yesterday as well. Right? Then there are green and red arrows. So the green arrow basically signifies whether an order booker has made progress in their rank in accordance to all the other order bookers. Right? So the first two tests have increased their rank compared to yesterday in comparison to all the other order bookers. Whereas test which has a red arrow means has dropped rank for their order book, right, in their leaderboard. And then we have another tab in which we can see the different points that they've scored for each KPI. So that was about it for our leaderboard. If any of you wish to enable this leaderboard, you can contact your customer success manager. They're going to take some time in onboarding, and you will be informed, after which you can start using your leaderboard. Okay. So the next item we have is again a setting. So if you go to system settings, you scroll down and you go to SKU attribute setting. Right. So a lot of customers of ours use their manufacturer code sometimes, and then sometimes they use their SKU code. Right. So to cater to all of our customers, we've actually now added an option where they can choose whether to show their in-app code as SKU code or manufacturer code. Right. So for this example, we've chosen manufacturer code. We can go back to our app and we can see that under the SKU 717 is the manufacturer code, 751 is also the manufacturer code. You scroll down, these are all our manufacturing codes. Right. So this is another feature we've launched. Additionally, we have now made a separate tab for must sell. Right. So our value, volume, must sell, both are going to be under this tab now. Right. So if we click on this, we can add this. So must sell completed. This is going to be for our quantity. For our value, we are going to be this, and we can select this. Right. So if we go back, we can now see that our MSS has now been achieved for value and for volume. Right. And then one last improvement that we've made is to store tagging, just to help ease some of the order bookers tagging a new store. So if we go over here, we're adding a new store. So locality now has a search option, right? So you can write 2 letters and it'll narrow down the localities for you, and you'll be easily able to select through your localities. Right? And then you can just go ahead and save. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ali. Let me move on to my presentation. Yes. Okay. So moving on to the last part of our agenda, that is talking about system improvements that we've done. So system improvements are the minor updates that we have made in the system, and I'll be just verbally talking about and going you guys through of what we've developed. Okay. So system improvements is the first system improvement that we've made is that we've also given our spot seller the credit visibility. So just what Asra explained, credit a module that we developed was first working on order bookers. Now we've implemented it for our spot sellers as well. So any actions that the credit module was doing on the web panel for order bookers will now also be doing for the spot sellers as well. Okay, then we worked upon the barcode scanning for cash collection. This is another mobile feature improvement. That is now you'll also be able to collect cash when you click on a store and you're collecting, when an order booker is collecting a cash, then you can scan the barcode of the store as well to confirm that that is the actual store from which the cash collection is being done. Okay. Then what we've introduced is that in the last release, we talked about must sell SKUs and what updates we've brought in them. So we've also now given bulk uploading for our must sell features wherever it was missing. And then talking about the second last improvement that we've done is that most of our customers, were requesting and had requested that they also need to see what delivery man is being tagged with which app user. So if you have an order booker and you have a fixed set of delivery men which you're also tagging through in the form, now you'll also be able to see it in the download CSV. So whenever you'll be downloading an order booker CSV, you'll also be able to see what delivery man is tagged with that order booker. So for ease of visibility, we've given that option as well. And the last thing that we've launched is the minor update that we've done is that at load form grid, if you guys remember, there was no load form settlement date or time being written. It was just simply the load form number and what time it was generated, right? And the delivery for any load form. So now what we've done is we've also added a timestamp of load form settlement date and at whatever time it was settled in the system. So now the users will also be able to see that on the grid. Okay, so this is just summarizing what system improvements we've done. If you would like to further ask questions regarding these, you can drop them here in the chat window, as well as you can also ask your CSM, your customer success managers to further guide on any feature that you would like to explore further and in detail. Okay, so let's talk about the next upcoming innovations. Our release plan for 5th of April, 5th of May, and 5th of June. This is what it looks like. And May, June is tentative. We tend to change it based on whatever customer requirement, whatever feedback we've gotten from the market. But 5th April is what we've locked in our sprint for this time, and then we'll be talking about it in the next webinar, which we'll be conducting in the next month. So this is what our innovation plan looks like. Now we'll be moving on to our question and answers round, and we'll be taking in questions regarding all the features that we've presented. If you feel that you need to give feedback, your suggestions, your comments, feel free to drop them in the chat window, and we'll be happy to answer them. So we've been getting questions throughout the session as well. Let me go through them as well so that everyone is aligned. Okay, so there was a question if we could remove credit limit on a single store. So yes, we can remove it, since the credit limit is being individually saved against the store, so you can mark it as active or inactive. And then someone asked about no calendar and JC calendar as well. So no calendar is basically the default configuration of the system, that is the Gregorian calendar. And for the JC calendar, we are still working on it, and we'll be talking about in our upcoming webinars. So stay tuned for it. Then someone asked about not switchable. That is, calendars cannot be switched, because then that will impact reporting and the data layer. So that's why we've not made it switchable for now. Okay, can we upload with Booker and SKU wise KPIs? So Fizan, जो आपके targets जो upload होंगे, that is based on जो targets आपके upload होते हैं वो आप order booker and SKU level पे भी define कर सकते हैं. So whatever targets you configure, that is reflected on the leaderboard, और उसके ऊपर आप फिर अपने key measures define करते हैं. Acha, so Muzammil asked me, can we show both code in application? So I answered his question as well, that the space in the mobile application is limited. That's why we've given the user the capability to select only one code at a time. Otherwise, बहुत ज़्यादा clutter हो जाता है. There's too much information in that tiny mobile screen to फिर वो it doesn't give a good experience for the mobile user. Why are you linking delivery man with app user? अच्छा, सो जुबैर, ये एक ऑप्शनल फील्ड है जो आप ऐप यूजर के ऊपर डिलीवरी मैन आप टैग कर सकते हैं. ठीक है, उस पे ये होता है जब आप लोड फॉर्म सेटलमेंट के वक्त जब आप अपना डिलीवरी मैन सेलेक्ट कर रहे होते हैं, तो उस पे ये होता है कि डिफॉल्ट जो भी आपका टैग होता है ना, वही डिलीवरी मैन उठ के आ जाता है. So that's why you don't need to select a delivery man every time a certain order booker is selected. So it's just कि आप if you want to set a default for an app user, if this is my booker, then this will be the delivery man. That is the business use case for it. Any other questions? that you guys have. Okay. Yes, sure. What feature is additional or free of cost? Okay, so whenever no, so what happens is if there's any feature that is of additional cost, we tell you beforehand. But all the other features, the credit limit, the payment policy, all these are available on your normal instance. You can use them, and they are free of cost. Any value addition features is something that we launch free of cost for our customers. Any other question? Okay, so if there are no further questions and if I've answered everyone's questions, then let's conclude the session. And yeah, so it was good to see a good amount of audience this time. We updated our mailing list as well, and we incorporated more people. There were a few people who told us that they aren't receiving their emails regarding the webinar announcements, etc. So we updated our mailing list, but if you still feel that more people from your team should participate in this event, feel free to email us their email addresses, and we'll be happy to update our mailing list as well. Okay, thank you, welcome. And for any suggestions, any feedback, you can either directly give it to your CSM, or we'll be circulating a survey form. You can give the feedback there. Thank you all for joining and taking out the time to come and listen to us and attend the session. So take care and thank you. Yeah.